Hello and welcome. In this video we're going to talk about press releases and how they fit into the overall off-page SEO process. Now, a press release is essentially a way of getting out a specific message about your business to the general public. And from an SEO perspective, there are actually a bucket load of different press release houses that you can submit a press release to in order to get a backlink coming back. Now, more importantly, one of the actual benefits of a press release is if your press release is topical enough and interesting enough, you can actually get the media involved and have them start creating a sort of viral sort of circle for you. But in this context, we're talking about it from an off-page SEO process. So really what we're discussing here is the ability to get some links there coming back from a authoritative site. And you have to ask yourself what you can expect from a press release. And as we were talking about in other videos with the social bookmarking, we were discussing having a broad spectrum of backlinks coming back from a site, from different types of sites. And these will be sites that are involved in social media, sites that are involved in article marketing, and in this particular instance, sites that are involved in press releases. So you're really building your backlink structure and you're making it a nice broad backlink structure from a variety of authoritative sites, which makes it great. Now, with press releases, when you actually pop them out into the big wide world, one of the benefits of having them online is actually having them show up in Google search engine results under the news section. And I'll just quickly change over to that so we can have a look at that as an example. Okay, so we pop over to Google, and if we have a look at Beverly Hills real estate, that's really one of the big areas we've been looking at throughout all the videos. And we have a look at the search engine results for Beverly Hills real estate. Now, if you click up here and we go under news, it shows up a number of different results as related to Beverly Hills real estate. And the second one here, which I had a look at just beforehand, shows a person that's written a press release talking about an experienced Beverly Hills real estate expert launches new website. So this can actually generate a little bit of additional traffic for you. And you can see that these guys have submitted their press release to Bazinga, and the press release was released on the 27th. And if you have a quick read of their press release, you can actually see that it's a little bit of topical information, fairly generic, but again, a way of getting some of those links back to your site. Now, there are a couple of different options that you have available that we'll cover shortly. But first of all, let's actually go through and we'll talk about the elements of a press release. So, what is the actual structure of a press release? Like, how should you set it up? How should it actually be structured? And there are a couple of important components of it. One of them is making sure that it's capturing an interesting content. Now, when I say capturing an interesting content, if it was Farmer Joe who has gone and given birth, who has a new cow or a new calf, then, I mean, that certainly could be interesting and topical information. But if it was something like Farmer Joe has a new calf, and that calf is an albino calf, one of the first in its world to be born in captivity, then that actually makes it interesting and capturing content. So it's a matter of going and finding that particular angle and making sure that you use that angle to its maximum benefit. From an SEO perspective, we want to make sure that the article title has a keyword in it, as we saw in that previous example beforehand with Beverly Hills real estate, because that will actually start showing up with the news. And one of the really good points to mention here is that if there is enough interest in it, then that will actually start to merge with the Google organic results, and it'll actually start showing news within the organic results, and that makes it very, very interesting. Now, you can see this in organic foods when I do a search for that within Google, and it shows Wikipedia at number 1, Mayo Clinic, and then Help Guide, and then here it actually starts to actually merge all of the existing news because the content has been syndicated enough. It's really gone and pushed it up there to the stage where people are actually paying attention to it, and then Google go and place it within the organic search listings. So again, another way of really good way of getting some traffic. You would also have 2 links within the body of the content with the keywords that you're actually looking at ranking for, and those are that's a very simple and standard way of actually implementing. You have a press release summary, and this is something similar to when you have an article prepared. So if you prepare one yourself, or if you have someone write one for you, having like a summary of what that actual article is about, and making sure that you include that in there. And it's not the first paragraph. We're not talking the first paragraph here. Author of the article, and you would normally use that if it's your site that you're doing, then you'd use that yourself, or if you're doing this for a client, then you'd include the client's details there. and the contact details. Now, the reasoning behind this is if you're preparing it, you need to have a way, if the media get a hold of it and they find it interesting, you need to find a way to make sure that that the person is actually contactable to discuss in more detail. And that raises the importance of ensuring that the actual person that you're preparing the press release for, they actually know what that press release is about, and they can ensure that they are aware that if someone were to contact them, if you make it topical enough. So what press release houses do I use? And I've attached at the bottom of this video here, I've attached a link that you can go through to that has a look at the top 50 that I'd recommend. And these are actually based on PR, so on PageRank, starting from the top to the bottom. And this list was updated in 2010 and is a very, very good list, still very, very active and still very prevalent in today, in 2011. So you actually use that list. Now the important thing about that list, if we go through it, and there's just a couple that I'm displaying there, and the thing is that you have to have a look at each one and make sure that that the press release house that you're looking at is directly relational to the subject that you're actually looking at posting out there. There are some of them there, and as an example, Nanotech Now or Thomas Net News, which are related to a specific industry. And if you're going and you're putting them out there and they're not related to that industry, then they're just going to reject the press release. And that's something that you should be very, very mindful of when you're actually looking at putting your press release together and you're looking at submitting it out there, that that you're checking the places that you're putting it onto. So finally, in closing, that really makes us ask the question of whether or not you should look at paid versus free press release submissions. And the ones that I went and told you previously, they're all free submissions, and you go through the manual process of submitting to each different location. The difference with the paid service, and the two of the most commonly known ones are prweb.com and OfficialWire. prweb.com is it can end up costing you a formidable amount of money to submit your press release out there. And I have actually used them a number of times for a number of different services, and I cannot actually give you a measurable difference between using the paid service and using the free service in this particular respect. One of the key differences if you're using somewhere like prweb.com is that it is again a more structured, more paid service. It's a lot faster, obviously, to submit it through to one that has a reasonable amount of visibility in comparison to using 50 which have a lesser level of visibility. But really, I mean, comparing the two, if you have the time to sit there and to submit to the free submissions, then that will always outweigh using the paid service. Keeping that in mind, I've included a couple of links down there, the two links for the ones that I was talking about, prweb.com and OfficialWire. OfficialWire I have used as well, and they do a one-stop submission service, which is €19.95, or it's €39.95 off the top of my head. Don't quote me on that. And when you use that particular service, it's a similar sort of effect to PRWeb, except PRWeb has a lot more scalable opportunity within it to charge you more money, essentially. So press releases, the only other piece of advice I'll give you on that is when you're actually gauging whether or not they are a strategy that you'd like to use, have a look to see what your competition are doing for that particular keyword, and have a look to see whether or not they're doing press releases. If they are, then it's something you should definitely have a look at doing. I have a number of clients that I'm actually using press releases for at the moment, where I'll do a 1 month or a 2 per month press release, and I'll make sure that I'm creating additional hype and additional information surrounding it. Now, these have helped them to get a fairly good result in relation to using press releases, mainly because they were doing exactly what their other competition was doing, and as a result, that assisted with the overall ranking factor.